You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we're looking for visible strings in FAB Facts.
We're joining an unusual community in the Randomiser.
And our guest is award-winning designer Neil Poulton.
All the awards. That's all coming up in Pod 220.
Well, I haven't got any of them. On the Gerry Anderson podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Welcome, one and all, to the Gerry Anderson Podcast with me, Richard James, him over there, Jamie Anderson, and him waiting over there, primed for the Randomiser. At the end of the podcast, Chris Dale. Now, we have lots of things coming up, of course. We've got some music, news, because there's always something new happening with Gerry Anderson universe. We've got Fab Facts, whereby Jamie flicks through a book of Fab Facts. I shout Fab. He alights upon a fact and tells us in no uncertain terms exactly what the fact is, and we decide whether it's Fab or not. We've got some Podsterons emailing us in at podcast@gerryanderson.com. And they've been also commenting on our Facebook group and hashtagging us on Twitter and commenting on our YouTube channel. And also we have, I think, an interview, as mentioned at the beginning there, with award-winning designer Neil Poulton. Would you like to tell us more about that, Jamie? No. Well, Neil Poulton is an award-winning designer. I'm sorry. Am I monopolizing?
Is this revenge for last week?
Yeah, I thought I'd turn the tables.
Well, they're very much turned.
Aren't they just?
Yeah. I mean,
to complete your games.
Do you just want to finish off? Because, you know.
I think that. Is there anything else? What? To be honest, I normally finish listening by now, so I don't know what comes next.
Fine. No, all of that stuff is coming up, Podsterons. All the stuff that he said. I mean, I could have said it better myself. So.
Oh, I bet you could. I mean, you probably could have sung it better, couldn't you? Judging from last week's.
I'm not doing that again. I mean.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a sort of 1 in 150 thing, that isn't it? Me singing on the podcast because I did Newsy News as the Secret Service. Do you remember?
Yes, I do remember. yes, I do. How could I forget?
Oh, I wish we could. And now I've done it again with Blooming Spaceman. There we are. Never mind.
Never mind, eh?
Yeah, so there might be some singing. There probably won't be. There's definitely going to be some interview. There'll be some stuff and Fab Facts and nonsense. And you've been emailing us. And
See, I've said all that. See, I've said all of that already.
I know, but I feel like I'm sort of out of place. I'm like
I know.
Spare
it's
part
odd, isn't it?
now.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. But you're not, Jamie. You're an integral part of the Gerry Anderson podcast. It's even in your name.
Well, only one of them.
So, yeah, but fair enough.
Yeah, okay, well, I mean, now I feel all discombobulated. Should we just go straight into a Fab Fact? Because at least I do that bit.
If it'll help.
Fab Fact it is, then.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Do you want to monopolise the opening of Fab Facts as well?
No, you carry on, Jamie.
You
Go
sure?
on, in your own words. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Fab Facts, Book of Fab Facts, Richard shout Fab, me stop flicking, Fab Fact read out.
What? We'll put more effort into it than that.
No. I'm all what's it now? I don't know what to do. So
okay, all right.
Anyway, I'm going to start flicking now. You ready?
Oh yes, born ready.
All right, off we go. Oh,
Fab.
Oh dear.
Did you trip?
Yeah. Well, I did a thumb trip.
Had a thumb trip.
So
yeah.
I flicked through the vast majority of the book here.
Right.
But that's fine. Last week we started early, and this time we're going late. If you remember, Richard James, a few podcasts ago, we wondered what it would have been like if Star Trek had been filmed in Supermarionation. Do you remember that?
Yes, we did wonder that, yes.
Well, we may forever have to wonder about Star Trek, but there is one sci-fi franchise that we don't have to wonder about. Now, being a fan of all things science fiction, you may well have heard of a program called Stargate SG-1. Have you heard of it?
Oh, naturally. Yes, in fact, I've also shared a studio floor with its star.
Oh, have you?
Richard Dean Anderson.
Nice,
yes, when he was MacGyver. Yeah, but carry on.
More of the Anderson connection there. Now, in case one of you Podsterons listening has not heard of SG-1, it is a TV series based on the 1994 Roland Emmerich film simply titled Stargate, and it concerns the adventures of a military team who explore various worlds through an ancient alien relic known as a Stargate. The series was very successful and spawned 10 seasons, loads of spin-offs and tie-in media like comics and books and audios, I think some of which have been re-released for the show's 25th anniversary by Big Finish.
Yeah.
The Gerry Anderson connection comes in SG-1's 200th episode. For their anniversary, the production team decided to do a story that was a bit more light-hearted, almost a parody of Stargate, sci-fi and pop culture in general, in fact. Picking up on an earlier story thread where Hollywood made a movie about the Stargate team called Wormhole Extreme, which is getting a bit meta here, aren't we? Episode 200 featured various characters pitching their ideas for a movie about themselves. One character imagined a possible version where all the characters were played by high-tech marionettes in a clear nod to Thunderbirds.
Okay.
This pitch recapped the events of the Stargate pilot episode, only when the puppets walked through the Stargate, all their wires were cut, leaving them collapsed on the other side.
Right.
If you're curious, the entire sequence is available on YouTube. Now, according to the DVD commentary for the episode, the puppets were built by Hollywood effects gurus, the Chiodo brothers, fresh off their work on, of course, Team America.
Ah, right.
Each of the puppets cost around $25,000 and featured wires that were sophisticated enough that it was felt the CGI was needed to make them more visible.
Right.
They were too hard to see on screen, thus ruining the joke. So, what do you think? Would you watch Stargate in Super Mario Nation? What about Farscape in Super Mario Nation? Or The X-Files in Super Mario Nation? Or a more contemporary show like For All Mankind or The Expanse in Super Mario Nation? Email in and let us know your favourite would-be combination of existing show combined with puppetry. We'd love to hear from you. Podcast at gerryanderson.com.
Yeah, nice. Now, Jamie, to your knowledge, are there marionette, Super Marination shows, if you will, being made anywhere in the world today?
Well, obviously...
That aren't specifically, there are kids' shows, but I'm talking, in the theme, in the style of sort of your Thunderbirds and your Captain Scarlet, sci-fi, family audience.
Not mainstream, no. I mean, obviously there's Nebula 75, which is a bit of a sort of Fireball XL5 lift. But nothing that is made contemporarily for a contemporary audience on a sort of big scale. And that's partly, I think, because they've just become a bit of either a relic or a symbol of comedy, which is kind of frustrating, really.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely.
But that Stargate reference in particular, the fact that it's not a serious thing and the gag is, when they go through the gate, the wires don't go with them. Yes. That instantly says, well, internationally, they're seen as figures of comedy.
Figures of fun, that's right.
Which is kind of sad, but that's the world we live in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, interesting.
So there you go. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing people's suggestions in due course.
Indeed.
For this. But for now, that brings us, with our wires sadly severed through a Stargate, to the end of this week's...
String Fact!
I can think
you
of
couldn't think of anything, could you? You couldn't think of anything.
No. Stargate Fact, SG-1 Fact.
Too long.
Yeah, none of them are really working. String Fact's
maybe
fine.
not. No. Anyway,
Should have been Wire Fact, really, but yeah.
Yeah, but you just said wire, and I didn't want to make it feel as if I just literally lifted what you just said.
Oh, it's tough, isn't it? It's really tricky.
It is tough. Doing this podcast is just exhausting.
Yeah.
Just having to be on the ball all the time. Luckily, we have some wonderful Podsterons who help us out by emailing us at podcast@gerryanderson.com with ideas of their own. For example, here's one from Philip Brooks Law, who says, "Hi, Jamie and Richard. I would just like to start by saying the audio adventure output from the worlds of Anderson have been exceptionally great over the last year or so, and have really taken me back to when I was 7, watching Thunderbirds and Stingray for the first time in 2001. He says the casts of both have captured the feel of their characters. Justin T. Lee as the Hood, Wayne Forrester as Phones, and Jules de Jong as Atlantia really stuck out. When I first heard the Hood, I could see the temple set and the statue of Carano with the flames behind very easily. Now I cannot wait for the Thunderbirds versus the Hood set, as Operation Asteroids was so gripping. However, when the Big Finish UFO series was announced, I was really worried, as I really loved the original series, but The more I looked into it, I started to feel more hopeful. Andy Lane's other work at Big Finish was great with Jago and Lightfoot. The cast was looking very interesting, with Barnaby Kay doing a fantastic job with Captain Xantor in Space 1999, so I knew that Straker would be done right. Once the CD set turned up, I played the first episode on my surround sound system late that night, and all my fears were put to rest. The cast, the music, the opening titles with the clicking sound of the fast typewriter, sound design, and the great stories. I couldn't stop. I listened to the whole set in one sitting that night, finishing at about 10:30. My only problem is that now I've got to wait until March for more stories. Oh, and whoever made the trailer on the Big Finish YouTube channel, I think it's Chris Thompson, it doesn't say in the video, just put the biggest smile on my face, and that's with kind regards from Philip Brooks Law.
Cheers,
Isn't
Philip.
that nice?
Yes, well done, Chris, and well done to the rest of the team on UFO. It does sound rather marvellous.
And of course, the Philip Brooks Law stipulates that any fan's enjoyment of new content will be inversely proportional to the dread that they experience when hearing of said new content.
Oh, interesting. That's an interesting mathematical theory, isn't it? Yeah.
Hi, R&J, says from China, Paul Hyder. He says, yes, now this goes back a few weeks. I don't know why we were discussing this, Jamie, but facetious does indeed have all the vowels in their correct order.
Oh, yes. Yes, I remember.
But so does abstemious, meaning moderate food and drink consumption. And uncomplimentary has them all in reverse order.
Oh, so it does.
Yes. I heard you working through that.
I had to just double check. Gosh, that is great.
Yes, anyway, PWR, says Paul Hyder, which is possible word order reversed, of course. And that's come all the way from China.
Cheers,
that's
Paul.
nice,
Lovely.
Yeah. Hello, Rich and Jamie. Simpsons clips here again, with a smile, a song, and a trick up my sleeve, if only I wore sleeves. Just when I thought 2000 was an excellent year, the year I was born, in case you're wondering, I found myself another Lavender Castle-related and a wrong that ruins it for me. Here we go. We've opened a can of worms here. This one comes from the 2nd of March 2000 section of an edition of the TV Times, where the episode interface is listed amongst the CITV programmes for that afternoon. The and a wrong in question comes from the episode's description, which is Dr. Agon sets a cunning trap for the crew of the Paradox. Nope. I did not spell paradox wrong. That's how it was printed. You had one job, TV Times editors. One job. SIG from Simpsons Clips 24. Yes. Slip of the finger on the old keyboard.
Yeah.
Could happen.
Well, I mean, you'd think a spell check would pick that up, but maybe they weren't as good for design software in the late 90s. Who knows?
Exactly. N. Smith finally says, 50 years ago, I first saw this, and it's the first time I've noticed another Anderong for you. He says, and I'm an engineer too. Thunderbird 2 cannot possibly go down on a pod without hitting the pods on either side with its wings. Can you picture the sequence he means?
Oh, yes.
It's when Thunderbird 2 lowers itself down the pod there.
I know.
Well, that's impossible because there's pods either side and its wings are sticking out.
Yeah, I know. They should have thought that,
that's
shouldn't
Anderson getting Anderson wrong, isn't it?
Well, it is, yes. That's an under wrong.
Anyway, keep up the good work, the three of you. Looking forward to getting my Standby for Action concert stuff. I had tickets, but had to move house instead. I hope you manage to repeat it one day. But then he said, when's Barry Gray Day? When's Barry Morse Day?
We can't have a day for every single person.
Be fun though, wouldn't it?
365 person days and show days a year.
Yeah, it'd be a bit like Saints Days.
One way to do it, isn't it?
Quite like that. Yeah. Anyway, all for now. Do send your thoughts, comments, and reviews into podcast@gerryanderson.com, and I will be sure to read them out next time.
Well, I, for one, cannot wait.
Good. I mean, you're going to have to, but good.
Oh, okay.
Only a week.
Well, I can probably cope for a week.
Sure.
But what will help tide me over for that week might be some Gerry Anderson news.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it, yeah.
Okay, well, let's have some Gerry Anderson news then. Yes, it's the Gerry Anderson news. Richard?
What?
Newsy?
What?
News?
Well,
News?
I did say last week.
Oh, come
didn't I?
on. I know, but you
How
always...
would it feel if I didn't? I just wanted to know.
You always say things and then actually you don't actually follow through with them. So.
News.
Oh, it slipped out.
You knew I would.
Yeah, you couldn't help yourself. Well, now we're in the proper news zone. Let's start with this. So let's start with Thunderbirds Danger Zone, the card game, the cooperative card game, and it is out now. Lots of you, I'm sure, will already be playing. We'd love to know how you're getting on. Email us podcast@gerryanderson.com with your thoughts, excitement, anticipation for the future. There's a fantastic tutorial on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GerryAndersonTV, where you can watch about 11 minutes giving you all the ins and outs of how to play the game, and there'll be some more gameplay videos and other stuff coming up over the next few weeks. But we'd love to see your pictures of you playing, your videos. Any thoughts on that? We'd love to hear them, love to see them.
Oh, yeah.
If you're a Terrahawks fan, the Terrahawks theme and story vinyl from, was it last Record Store Day, I think, is almost sold out. We've got 4 left at this point, so if you are a Terrahawks fan or a vinyl fan, or ideally both, then pop over to the Gerry Anderson store and you can find it there. Now, this week ahead, lots of exciting things. Monday, you'll be able to get a Thunderbird 1 launch bay for your office, workshop, tool shed, garage, man cave, woman cave, person cave.
Yeah.
And it looks rather lovely. And it's just a nice little subtle thing, you know. If you know Thunderbird 1's launch bay, you could probably stick a lemon squeezer to the wall as well if you want. But it's a nice touch which you can use to adorn any space you spend time in. Tuesday this week would have been Suzanne Roquette's 80th birthday. She passed away a couple of years ago. So a happy posthumous birthday there. Do you know she was only 5'4.5"?
Ooh.
I'm sure some of you Podsterons are the same, maybe shorter, maybe taller. Anyway, there you go, little mini fab fact for you there. On Wednesday, we're launching a Thunderbirds notebook featuring the TV21 annual or the Thunderbirds annual cover from 1971. It's the orange one with a very dynamic climbing Thunderbird 2 shot. It's a nice thing, and if you need a notebook, then, well, obviously that's the thing for you. However, this Thursday and Friday are quite exciting if you are a UFO or a Space 1999 fan. If you're a fan of both, then it'll be doubly exciting.
Nice.
It all sounds a bit cryptic, doesn't it? But do stand by this Thursday and Friday. That's the first couple of days of September for some very exciting news. Now, I think the UFO stuff, that'll be kind of top secret news going to shadow operatives only. By that I mean anyone who's bought UFO stuff in the past from the Gerry Anderson store. You'll be one of the first to know this exciting news.
I'm looking forward to that.
It's pretty glorious that we've been working on something in the background which I think you're going to love. Yeah. You're basically going to love it. Anyway, that's all, I think, for this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. I couldn't resist singing the song News. I couldn't help myself.
Well, it's kind of lovely that you couldn't help yourself.
It's silly, isn't it?
Thank you for being predictable but enthusiastic.
That's exactly what my school reports used to say.
Charlotte reports the same now as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Now, just ahead of your interview with Neil Poulton, award-winning designer, I do have some messages from our Podsterons via our Facebook group. Would you like to hear them?
No. Oh. Anyway, no, of course I would. Of course I would.
Hannah posted, I've been browsing on the internet recently and I came across some concept art of one of Gerry's many failed attempts to remake Thunderbirds. I immediately noticed this uniform looks very similar to the ones in Firestorm. Does this mean we'll also see those helmets in the new show too? Was Firestorm created by Gerry's work to create a new Thunderbirds, like how Space 1999 was created because season 2 of UFO was cancelled? If anyone's got any more info, please let me know. Thanks. So that's an interesting idea. Did you take inspiration from other designs for the design of the Firestorm?
They were
costumes?
Original designs designed by Steve Kite, who I believe did the same. He also did the that Thunderbirds reimagining artwork too. So it's actually
that may well be what Hannah's stumbled across.
It's all connected through the same concept artist. That's the connection there.
Yeah, and was the idea for it to sort of replace Thunderbirds, as it were, like Space 99?
I mean, all Anderson stuff has a shared feeling, right?
Yes.
Often secret organisations or some, doing something selfless, lots of tech and all that. So it was just another iteration, really.
Yeah. Hugh Porter posted, my copy of the Secret Service soundtrack came in the post today, and well, I was surprised to be supplied with the soundtrack and a Gemini Force badge. I don't know if this is a free item, the warehouse had plenty and decided to get rid of, or an order muddle up. Anyway, I'm glad to have it, if it's a free additional item.
It was a freebie, Hugh. Glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Kelly Haycock, she said, I had a weird Captain Scarlet dream last night. New Captain Scarlet style uniform. Blue was wearing mostly Scarlet's uniform, but there was a blue panel on it. Scarlet was wearing Blue's uniform entirely and had salt and pepper hair. But the weirdest bit was Captain Black appeared and was embarrassed because he was dressed up as Mr. Mime from Pokemon, except he wasn't dressed up. He was in his Spectrum uniform, but he had all the physical characteristics of the Pokemon instead. All very bizarre, says Kelly.
Have I slipped into a parallel
Have you been
universe?
eating cheese before you go to bed, I wonder?
Yeah.
Weird.
I don't know what to say to that.
No, strange. Alex Patrick says, so I'm listening to this week's Randomiser, and hold on a second, Torchy lives in a pineapple house. Gerry Anderson did it first again.
You're right, yes. There's a horrible mashup there with SpongeBob and Torchy the Battery Boy.
Torchy.
Horrible.
And finally, for now, Martin Smith posted, I recently subscribed to BritBox through my Prime account. I so wanted to watch A Life Uncharted, which I did yesterday. What an emotional journey through Gerry's life it was. I was moved to tears watching it. A very moving documentary. My heart went out to Jamie and his other family members. I imagine it must have been hard for Jamie, discovering so much he didn't know previously about his dad and having to deal, along with his mum Mary, with Gerry's worsening Alzheimer's condition. My wife came in at the point that Jamie was at Lionel's grave and at Pinewood, where Gerry's ashes had been placed in the lake, and the ghost of Gerry walked across the bridge towards Jamie. Well, we were both in tears by this point. I will no doubt be watching this again and again and await a Blu-ray release in the near future with, I hope, a lot of unseen footage edited in. For those of you who haven't seen it, please take the time to watch it. You will not be disappointed, says Martin Smith.
Oh, what a lovely, lovely review. Thank you so much, Martin.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah,
yeah.
It's really nice to hear. I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. And what's so nice these days is that, of course, with our streaming devices and channels and platforms and so on, things are there forever. It's not forever, but for a certain term, aren't they? You know, to watch, rather than you just see it once or you miss it.
Yes, it's not one and done.
So people are still discovering it, yeah.
Oh, and they will continue to discover it, ongoing, which is really lovely.
Yeah, lovely. So all for now, but if you're on the internet and you're a member of the Face group, then do pop over to the official Gerry Anderson podcast listeners group, answer a couple of questions, join in along with, I think 855 or 56 other people, and why not have a bit of fun? Tell everyone your favourite show, post some pictures, and join in the Saturday night quizzes and games.
What is it? Be nice and join in the fun.
That's about it, isn't it?
Lovely.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you all for keeping it so nice there. Now, I've just been joined by Betty, the dog.
Good.
Excellent. She's not very noisy, so she's just lying on my lap. But she's arrived at the perfect time, I think, for our interview, hasn't she?
Oh, right. That's why she's here. I see.
Yes. So you may remember some weeks ago we've mentioned the Lacey rugged hard drive, or Lassie, depending on who's saying it. And the fact that its design was inspired by the SPV. Well, you don't have to take our word for it any longer, because the man behind the design is here to confirm it for himself. It's designer Neil Poulton, speaking to me from the lovely Paris in France. So he was speaking from there, and I was speaking from a village in Wales. His life feels more glamorous suddenly. Anyway, it was a really enjoyable chat. So here's the first part of 2 with Neil Poulton.
Hi, I'm Neil Poulton. I'm a product designer and a lighting designer. I'm actually based in Paris in France, where I've been for 30 years.
What a nice place to be. And how is the weather in Paris currently?
It's lovely. It's beautiful. It was kind of like silly last week. It's getting up to the 41s and 42s sort of thing. But you had that in Britain as well.
We did. Now, forgive me for saying, Neil, but you don't sound like a Parisian to me.
Well, this is actually the new Parisian accent. This is how most Parisians actually sound these days. No, I was obviously I'm Scottish. I was born on the north coast of Scotland, and I moved down. I was in London for a while, and then I was in Italy, and then I was in Paris. So I've moved around a bit. Okay, you're a jet setter. But you settled there. I mean, and what's better about Paris than Scotland? Oh, don't get me into that one. I'm not going to get started on that at all. Next question. All right, we'll move swiftly on. Now, the reason we got in contact and the reason that your name and work might be familiar to a number of Anderson fans is to do with the rugged hard drive. So we will end up crossing back into the world of Captain Scarlet. But do you want to just tell me about that
that particular product, why people might know it. I'm sure they'll recognise it just from the oral description.
Yeah, well, this is one of the problems of having an audio podcast. Otherwise you could just flash a picture on the screen. But so the rugged hard drive is a hard drive which was designed for Lassie, and it's pretty. I mean, it's a famous. It's become sort of like a pop icon. It's got a sort of fluorescent orange bumper around it, so people know it as the orange hard drive. But it's been in like countless films and TV shows, and it's used by like the entire music and video industry. So I mean, if there's filmmakers watching this, they'll know what the product is. Anyway, the one of the things about the rugged hard drive is it's supposed to be indestructible.
I see. And so you drew on some particular visual reference for that?
Well, this is it, because I always thought that if Captain Scarlet was indestructible, then the SPV should really be indestructible too. Because it's like the SPV. I mean, I know there was lots of them. So they kept popping up from all over the place. But the idea of that being sort of this very, very fast-moving tank, I love that idea. And the thing, the visual reference, well, that was the basics of it. Was that it was indestructible. So it was trying to make a product that looked as if it was indestructible.
Yeah.
But where the actual visual cue comes from is that white bumper around the front of the car. So that is I know that Derek Meddings designed the SPV, whereas almost all of the, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of the Captain Scarlet stuff was Mike Trim, wasn't it?
A lot of it was, yeah.
And Meddings, I think Meddings was maybe doing a film or something, and so you only. But in any case, the SPV was it's a Meddings design, and that the bumper, which also kind of looks like a sort of a 1960s basketball shoe, and that bumper, and it's got those grooves in it, and it's sort of got that sort of rounded form, a big rounded form, and you get the impression the SPV could crash into anything, and it wouldn't get a scratch. So. That was sort of the visual cue. I took this element of the bumper and just took the bumper, which in the SPV is just on the front, and I wrapped it around the entirety of my product, and then changed the color to make it orange, which actually gave it a basketball reference as well, as we're talking about basketball shoes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's been a lot of sort of what I do. There's still sort of like elements that go back to these early influences with all of the Gerry Anderson designs. And I think what I always liked about all of the craft was I liked the idea that all of the good ones in a case are like sort of monoblocks. They're like single objects. They're sort of like if you take something like the Thunderbird 2 or even the Mole. The Mole is a good design. I know it's two parts, but the Mole is a great design. But it's like it's if you go to something like I don't know, if you look at Alien and you look at the Nostradamus, the ship, it's this assembly of like lots and lots of different bits. Whereas a lot of the craft and Thunderbirds are kind of like sculpted. And I know that Mike Trim always talked about these compound surfaces. Sorry about that, I went to tongue try. So a compound surface is basically a surface which curves in two different directions at the same time. And if you look at all of the craft in Thunderbirds and in Captain Scarlet, they all have these incredible compound surfaces. It's it's in terms of design references, it's something that I think it's been overlooked. Really, how good the designs for Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet and UFO and Stingray, how really good they were.
Yeah. It is amazing how there's a kind of a design language that makes it all of its very own period, but it's still cool now. I don't know if you know, but Dad was a big fan of that hard drive and had multiple versions.
Oh, I didn't. I'm pleased to hear that.
Yeah.
I never ever met him. It was crazy. I never had any opportunity to meet him. I would have loved to have met him. That would have been fantastic.
Well, I'm not even sure he was aware necessarily of the SPV reference either.
Subconsciously, see, this is why I like the drives.
Let's hope it was subconscious. But yeah, that was his go-to one, and he would always, if he was going to get a new hard drive, a new external for something, he would specifically request one of those. So,
that rugged range is done incredibly well. As I say, apart from it's in all these TV shows and films I was talking about. It's also in museums, and they've sold in excess of 6 million of them.
Wow.
It's like something like 6,700,000 they've sold. It's like it's just like crazy in terms of it's just everywhere.
Yeah, but it is amazing that it derives some of its aesthetic from stuff you were watching as a kid. So that in itself is amazing, and just to see the ripples through time. So if you go back then to your telly watching childhood, which I assume was that back in Scotland, still we're going back to there.
Yeah.
So what are your earliest kind of Anderson memories now?
Well, like I was born in 1963, and that was really in the sort of the huge boom period for everything around Thunderbirds. I mean, Thunderbirds was everywhere. It was in cereal packets. You used to get little plastic toys, and it would always be the hood. You would shake the cereal packet, and the little plastic bag would slowly work its way up, and you'd open it, and it'd be a green plastic figure of the hood. When you actually wanted Alan Tracy, it was just annoying. But I think that I can remember reading TV21 when I was really young, and getting really impressed. I think was it Frank Bellamy that used to draw the Thunderbird strip, and being really amazed by that. And I found a photo recently of myself, and it must be either 3 or 4, black and white photo, obviously. And I'm sitting on my mum's knee, and I've got the Thunderbird hat on with the IR on it, and I've got the holster, sort of over-shoulder holster, which is in cardboard, and I'm holding an Alan Tracy doll.
All right, so you're kind of a fan then, maybe it's fair to say.
Maybe vaguely I've been a fan. It's like vaguely interested in Thunderbirds. Yeah. I think that for me, like it's Fabrics of 5. It was too early. But I mean, Thunderbirds was already started. When Thunderbirds was 62,
65,
65. Okay, so. Well, it's like just getting into that, and then Captain Scarlet, and then UFO, and then by the time I got to Space 1999, that was kind of like there's maybe a generation switch there somewhere. But anyway, so like if you look at it, I think in terms of the design, the great designs. Well, I mean, Stingray is such a fantastic design.
Oh yeah,
it's beautiful. And then you've got things like the UFO Interceptor, which is just like fantastic. And there's even like what's it called? Skydiver 1.
Yeah,
that's the little Sky One that breaks away from it off the nose and bursts out of the water. So I mean, they're just legendary designs, just great.
Yeah, they are beautiful things. I mean, so is it the visuals that captivates you at that young age, do you think?
I think it would probably be a bit of everything, but I think above all, I mean, like it's a suspension of belief, suspension of disbelief. What I'm talking about. You didn't really care that there were puppets. Afterwards, everybody got really hung up about the fact that there were puppets, and Thunderbirds had these huge big heads. And of course, the difference between Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet is because there's this progressive movement towards realism, which ends up with UFO and Space 1999. But I think it was Meddings who was saying in that interview that one of the problems with Captain Scarlet was that nobody could tell the puppets apart. So the fact of having different colours for each character was actually a way of designating which one was which. Whereas in Thunderbirds, the difference between Brains and Scott, it's just like it's enormous. But in terms of like that, as I say, that it was really a time when Thunderbirds was just booming everywhere, and particularly the sort of the merchandising. And it wasn't really like merchandising that you would go and pay like I don't know what like a fortune to get a limited edition piece or something. It was merchandising that you got free when you bought cereal, or when you bought you bought a magazine and they had a Thunderbird plastic craft sellotape to the front of the magazine. These sort of things. And it was really that period of boom. It was on the TV. It was just everywhere. And I think there would be very, very few people in Britain in that generation not to have been touched by Thunderbirds.
I think you're probably right. And it's such a significant cultural thing, and it has reared its head again a few times over the years, but probably never in quite the same way as it did in the 60s. But in comparison to other stuff at the time that might have been competing for your attention, what is what is it that made it stand out to you? Do you think what else was there competing for your attention?
Well, it was Star Trek, Doctor Who, and I mean Doctor Who. Me and my sister used to hide behind the couch, sneak looks around the side of it. And it was the Tom Baker, the Doctor Who, that we really sort of like. That he was our Doctor Who. I think every generation has their own Doctor,
of course.
And he was ours. It was John Pertwee, but more Tom Baker. Tom Baker was the man. And I remember with Star Trek, as a young adult, I spent a lot of time looking for the original versions of Star Trek in black and white that hadn't been recolored. And I was convinced that Star Trek originally had been in black and white. And I mean, this is obviously because you watch it on a black and white TV. It's like, but it was. I got it in my head somewhere that Star Trek, that they went back and they'd recolored all the films. But so in terms of what was competing, but there was in kids things, there was things like, I don't know, there was comedy shows, things like the Banana Splits.
Yeah.
And then later, no, it was much later. There was things like Tiz Was and things on the TV. But in terms of the science fiction stuff, afterwards there was the Tomorrow People, Blake Seven, all of these classic British sci-fi shows. And Blake actually used to live next door to my mum, Gareth.
Really? Small world.
Yeah.
Small world. Okay, but it was the Anderson stuff that seemed to have captivated you the most.
My mum said that at one point I wanted to be called Alan, and I wouldn't reply to any name but to Alan. So I think it was pretty sort of like seriously obsessive.
Do you know what? This is so strange. It is a very similar story. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but Sophie Aldred, who was Ace in Doctor Who with Sylvester McCoy, she insisted on being called, I think, Scott as a kid. And I'm almost certain that Nick Briggs, who voiced the Daleks in Doctor Who, was a Gordon. So you're joining an illustrious club. We're just looking for a Virgil and a John now, and we're all set.
That's it. We can put the band back together.
Well,
you look at an amazing lineup. I'm sure of that. You can design the uniforms, Neil. How's that? The new ones.
That would be great. No, but in Thunderbirds, it was Thunderbird 3. Thunderbird 3 was my favourite, and it was really annoying because it was never in any of the episodes. It was always Thunderbird 1 and Thunderbird 2. And Thunderbird 3 was like every 10th episode they would
treat.
Get a special treat and get it. And Thunderbird, I always wonder, like going to the design element of Thunderbird 3. I mean, I wondered if, I'm presuming that was Meddings as well, the Thunderbird 3.
Oh, yeah.
But I wondered how influenced he was by the spaceship on the cover of Objective Moon by Tintin, which is 10 years earlier, from 1953. And that's a big red spaceship. It's not the same shape, but it does have those 3 big external engines.
Interesting.
And so it's almost like you take that, the Tintin spaceship, and then you add flying buttresses, because you don't know what these things are. These 3 things that are coming down. I mean, that's what gives Thunderbird 3 its classic look. It kind of looks like a Gothic cathedral or something.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I'd never thought of them as flying buttresses, but you're absolutely right, especially with the added kind of stripe details.
Yeah, that's it. There's something in it. I mean, it's like Scott Monument, in Edinburgh. You put Thunderbird 3 there, paint it black, and people wouldn't notice.
People often actually, when they go to Edinburgh, send photos in or tweet them and tag us and say, I just found Thunderbird 3 up here. So it is, there's a visual language there that's shared. I'm amazed, though, that Thunderbird 3 is your one and not 2, because Thunderbird 2 is the one that everybody loves. So why does 2 fade into second place or worse for you?
I know, I love Thunderbird 2. The wonderful thing about Thunderbird 2 is it's this huge big cargo, and it just looks like a huge big cargo. It looks like it would never fly, and the wings going backwards on the side, and all this, there's so many details. And the thing that always intrigued me about Thunderbird 2 were the pods, because I always felt like the pods were kind of like the elements, so if you look at it and you got water, fire, air, earth. So water's Thunderbird 4, fire's Firefly, air's the jet air transporter, and earth is the mole. So it's like, and then because it's kind of like each one of the pods has a different element in it. It's like, but as to why Thunderbird 3 beat Thunderbird 2, I don't know. Maybe it was even because of its rarity. Its rarity in the series, because you got Thunderbird 1 and Thunderbird 2 every week. you had to
They were
wait.
ubiquitous, but yeah, it's a special treat seeing Thunderbird 3 do anything.
I mean, I think that maybe even the mole. You saw the mole more than Thunderbird 3.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny, isn't it? How as soon as you start to pull at the threads of the logic of a lot of it, particularly Thunderbird 4 being carried by Thunderbird 2, so it's a pod vehicle in line with the others. What makes that so special when it gets a Thunderbird designation? And was Thunderbird 3 designed for that much? I suppose it was designed for space rescue, but yeah, let's not pull at the logic too much because the whole show does work.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So beautifully, including its aesthetic. And from that point of view, I don't know how you feel, but the vehicles and the characters were really designed by two separate teams, including the puppet wardrobes and stuff, which is why when you look at the sash colors versus the vehicle colors, they bear little, if no relation, because there was no coordination between the two. So you had maybe even 3 separate departments, really, if you include the art department with sets and props, working on this one show, and yet it works together and ties together. What do you think it is about the kind of the visual language of Thunderbirds which makes it its own contiguous world that does feel completely developed and like it can exist kind of out of time, and that's why it lasts?
I don't know. I think it definitely has that sort of that space age aesthetic to it. I mean, even in terms of Sylvie, I think it was Sylvie who was doing all the fashion design and all the costumes and everything.
Well, we believe so, yeah. I mean, the puppeteers were doing a lot of their own design at that time. I think Sylvia kind of moved into more of the costume design on the live action stuff, but she certainly seems to have had an influence across it. Because
you see it particularly André Courrèges was. André Courrèges was a French designer who basically created the space fashion. Well, him and Pierre Cardin created it. And so if you look him up on the internet, you'll find that he did all these amazing things, and a lot of them look like costumes from Thunderbirds. And there's a lot of things that are really could have been Courrèges designs, like things like the Angels costumes, or the Space 1999 costumes. They look an awful lot like André Courrèges' his designs. You should look him up because he's often overlooked. But at the time, he was really credited as being the founder of space fashion, and co-inventor of the miniskirt, I think, as well.
Okay.
So it's it was pretty radical, design. It was like transparent latex, and all white shiny clothing and things like this. Yeah. It's pretty, sort of comic book style clothing.
I mean, it makes sense that they tie together. So because the hardware guys were all inspired by current and potential future vehicles, aviation, space travel, and certainly from the design side, I was given a Captain Scarlet script a few years ago that belonged to somebody from the puppet and wardrobe department, and inside were various cuttings from fashion magazines at the time, where they'd obviously read through and were looking for inspiration for particular characters' costumes, I guess. So I think they were heavily influenced. I don't know what comes where timeline-wise in terms of those designers and their activity. There's a Captain Scarlet-like kind of vest, a Pierre Cardin one, I'm sure. So who influenced who? I'm sure there's a lot from the world of fashion, but I hope it kind of went forward as well.
Yeah, I would have thought that at that time there'd probably be a lot of things coming. They would be taking their influences from what was going on all around them.
Yeah.
But the irony of it is that now today we are taking our influences from them. So it's like it's kind of it goes full circle. No?
Yeah.
It's like but that there certainly is a sort of harmonious sort of overall design to almost each of the series, and each of the series has its own nuances in terms of like the sort of the style of it. I mean, if you look at things like Captain Scarlet, Captain Scarlet in general, most of the craft are more angular. There's a lot of sort of triangular sort of forms. They're more aggressive.
Yeah.
And it kind of matches the sort of the more darker element of Captain Scarlet, where Thunderbird was Thunderbirds was pretty light-hearted. Thunderbirds were it was kind of like the Chemical Brothers. They were sort of like, it was the euphoria, saving the world. This sort of stuff. It was uplifting. This one, yeah. Whereas Captain Scarlet had this really sort of dark edge to it. I mean, there's the fact that the main character gets killed and comes back to life. It's for a kids TV show at that time. It was like, that's kind of. And particularly, I mean, did you get any problems with the church?
I don't know. It's funny, isn't it? Because at the time, I mean, certainly you would have had on the BBC Mary Whitehouse complaining about everything in Doctor Who and everything being dark there. I mean, we've had a few people email over the years saying, is there some kind of religious, Jesus type connotation in Captain Scarlet's resurrection, essentially? And I don't think so. I mean, it's amazing what was acceptable and wasn't read into and wasn't deemed to be potentially damaging for kids back then. You couldn't make Scarlet for a child audience now. It would just be impossible. You'd get shut down by Ofcom before you got off the ground.
Again, maybe it was because they were puppets, and if you'd done the same sort of thing with like real actors, then maybe you'd have had Mary Whitehouse, going crazy. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure. Well, I mean, I don't think she attacked the ITV stuff quite as much as she did the BBC anyway. But it definitely had a different flavour to it. And you must have watched that quite young then. How? Because that came out in '67. Obviously, it was repeated through the '60s and early '70s.
Again, I don't know if I saw that things when they were on their first screenings, or because it was just there on the TV. And the thing, it was like, because it's not today, it's not YouTube. You did have to sit and wait a week, and there wasn't any VCR even at that time. You physically had to, if you wanted to see another Thunderbirds, you had to be there in front of the TV at the time Thunderbirds was going to run, or that was it was gone. And I mean, that's obviously something that our generation we sort of like progressively forgotten that. You're going to go through all the different means of like recording right up to to the red button now, but that was something that, and again, if something, I don't know. There wasn't any cliffhangers in Thunderbirds, though, were there?
I mean, there was a commercial break because it was a 50-minute piece, so you'd get the bumpers halfway through, which would be cliffhangery. But I mean, no, I mean nothing was serialized. Scarlet had a hint of it with the kind of continuing threat, obviously with the Mysterons, but they weren't kind of giant arcs for everything going on.
Because I remember that. At the same time, we used to go to the cinema on a Saturday morning, and there was the matinees, and they would run Batman, and Batman always ended on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And so you had to come back next week to see what was going to happen. And then the next episode ended on a cliffhanger, and then,
And then keep going. Yeah. But I think that was, I guess, American stuff, maybe it was easier for them to be serialized, whereas they could never guarantee broadcast order for serial stuff, particularly in the UK. So they never had those continuing elements, which are just so familiar today.
Here's a question on that. I mean, why did they pull the plug on Thunderbirds?
Lou Grade, really, who was Dad's backer. So, I mean, it's funny because in my mind, he set up its demise in many ways, because it was a half-hour show. He demanded it be made longer, because for whatever reason, he felt like a 50-minute show of this sort of scale and stuff was going to work. And then nobody really had any slots for a kid's 50-minute show in the US. So they did the first series, he renewed them for 6 episodes, and then he was like, no, I can't sell it out there. And selling to the US was the big ticket. Because he didn't make it, that was the end, even with the 2 extra feature films. Did you see those? Yeah,
I saw the feature films. I'm sorry, but they're kind of too long. Both of them, and Thunderbird 5 being a biplane is like maybe not the sort of thing you would expect.
Yeah, it's really interesting, that whole kind of thread of brains. We need a Thunderbird 6, and then all these designs.
Thunderbird 5. Sorry, I said Thunderbird 5. I meant Thunderbird 6.
Everybody forgets Thunderbird 5, Neil. That's quite all right. I'm sure
it's up there spinning around with all the space junk.
Yeah, exactly. Bouncing into
bits of debris
that are floating around now. Yeah. More next week from Neil.
Great. How interesting.
Yeah, see, just the life of a designer and the different things that inspire you, and the different things that fascinate you. I always think it's interesting, depending on who we speak to, the specific elements of the shows that they're most interested in, that they enjoy the most, and that stick out to them. And it's sort of it's very different for everyone, really, which is kind of
Of course it is. Yeah, absolutely.
If you want to see what Neil's up to, you can go to neilpoulton.com, neilpoulton.com, and see him there. He's also on Instagram and some other places too.
Great.
That was helpful, wasn't it?
It was very helpful. I'm on Instagram now.
Are you?
Well, yeah, I quite like it.
What's your handle?
Well, I think I'm Richard_N_James.
Oh, just to change things up a bit. Yeah.
I know, I couldn't think of anything else.
Well, that'll do. I'm sure at least one Podsteron will follow you now, but I'm going to do it right this second, actually.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Now, you must be aware, dear Podsteron, that we have our own official Gerry Anderson YouTube channel, and all sorts of things are posted on there, from primers to interviews to Chris Dale's Amazing Beyond Anderson series, and tech talk and all kinds of wonderful stuff, as well as the podcast, and in its own little section, Fab Facts every week, which I know is very popular and gets thousands of views just on its own.
Bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. Under one of our more recent Fab Facts, that was about when Barry Morse and Catherine Schell worked together on a series called The Adventurer, Mr. Shaunsk posted, "The Adventurer is at least as good as The Protectors. Both were only 30 minutes long and had great theme tunes. Both had US movie star lead actors and great location work. 2 fine shows." T. Kent Flyer says, "I really am tempted to check out The Adventurer after hearing these Fab Facts. I'm a big Victor Berman fan." William Whitehead says, "You forgot to mention that the actors also met during the filming of The Guardian of Piri, Season 1, which is an episode from Space 1999, which rather undermines the whole premise of that particular week's Fab Fact."
Different characters set up. Right. So, no, it doesn't. It's fine.
Following on from the story about, was it Gene Barry, I think, who refused to work with anyone taller than him? Yeah. Alex Rogan posted, "I've got visions of Gene Barry scanning the day's call sheet, demanding to know how tall each actor is." And finally, this will please you, Jamie. John Clay summed it all up by using simply 3 words. Good fact.
3?
Yeah.
Good
Fab Fact.
Oh, sorry.
Good Fab Fact.
The dog was barking when you said fab, and so I just heard good fact, and I was like, that is only 2 words,
Yeah, it is, yeah. But there we are, all for now, but yes, do comment underneath our various YouTube videos, and I'll see them there and read them out next time like I always do. That's what I'm here for.
Excellent. Now, Eric.
Got steady. Now
Sorry, they're getting a bit grumpy and tetchy over there.
Yes.
Now, I feel like it's time that we delved randomly into a random episode of a Random Anderson show. What do you think?
Well, can we do that?
Well, thankfully, we can, because on hand right now we have the Randomiser himself with his Randomiser for a segment called the Randomiser.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, great.
Let's do that.
Good.
Here's the Randomiser.
Morning, Tintin.
What brings you here?
Oh, nothing much. Just thought you might like to press the button on the randomizer today.
Good, that's nice.
Yes. So, what are you up to?
Make yourself comfortable in the control seat and I'll explain.
Huh? Thank you, yes. Thunderbird 1, eh? Oh, that's very nice.
Don't get yourself too comfortable.
Oh, all right then.
Well, I'm checking Thunderbird 1 systems. We never know when the ship will be needed, so she has to be perfect at all times.
Yes, good thinking. We do much the same with the randomizer, you know.
Tell me all about it.
Oh, well, it's pretty simple, really. All you have to do is press that big red button there, and in a few moments we'll find out which episode I'll be watching today. That is, if you actually want to do it.
Why, certainly, I'd be delighted.
Thank you.
I wonder what it'll be. I think it's a big one this time.
Oh, well, don't get too carried away, eh? Just in case.
Oh, don't spoil it.
Okay, well then, let's see what we have to...
What's the matter?
Oh, well, it's the Protectors today, which is, fine. However, yes, this is far from being one of my favourite episodes. In fact, it might even be one of my least favourites.
Well, there's no use brooding over it.
Quite so, yes. Well then, suppose I'd better get started on it.
How long is that going to take?
Well, about 25 minutes normally, although if I struggle to find anything to say, it might be significantly less.
I'll just take a quick look.
Yes, you don't want to stick around too long for this, as it's one I think I'm really going to struggle to find things to talk about, but here's Burning Bush, with apologies in advance.
I wonder what he meant by that.
So, here we are again with The Protectors, Series 2, and I've been thinking a lot about my struggles with The Protectors on the Randomiser. I stress I like this show, and I like this show a lot. I appreciate that it sometimes doesn't always sound like that, simply because I don't feel the reason for that is any failing with the show. The failing is in me, in being able to articulate
salvation,
something that, compared to the other Anderson shows, is a bit more run-of-the-mill. There aren't any fantasy or sci-fi elements. With the exception of this episode, and don't get your hopes up, sci-fi fans, it's very minor, let's say paranormal element to this episode. As we open in this commune,
is in resolution,
where they're having a bit of a chat about salvation and such. The congregation
that is an ultimate
are going along with the whole theme of salvation, including one young lady in the front row,
spirit,
played by Sinead Cusack,
embodied in timeless,
who's very into it.
Descending from the...
And beside her is another familiar face from a previous randomizer, Ken Hutchison, who I think we saw about this time last year in the Space 1999 episode Seance Spectre, where he was a bit of a religious zealot.
When all ugliness shall become beauty.
And he's doing much the same here, oddly enough. It's a very similar performance, which is interesting, because they're his only Anderson guest roles.
Of our other beings to eliminate.
I think this guy's name is Mark.
Violence and suspicion.
He's got the same unhinged look in his eyes, and crucially, the same beard.
Leave her, Brother Mark. She's with the spirit. Leave her.
And Sinead Cusack is, well, she's a bit overcome by all of this.
Sister Anne has been chosen tonight to bear the beauty and the pain of this manifestation of grace in the spirit.
Oh, well, it's all right for some.
Bear her gently away.
So we come back from the opening titles, not to Harry's groovy pad in London, which I, as I previously said, I've been to, but to the outside of this commune in London, where, behind the wall of names that make up our guest cast, blocking the screen there, we find Paul taking photos of Sinead Cusack. I suspect there's a bit of, as was common in the second series, "Oh, Mr. Rule, I need you to help find my son or daughter. We had an argument and now they've gone off. I am rich businessman of lots of money, and yeah. Oh, here he comes now. I suspect this is the father. Obviously, I have seen this episode, but not often. So yeah, I think I remember just about enough of it to get by. He's been picked up at the airport by a limo, whisked off. Here we are in Harry's pad.
Where is she, Mr. Rule? Your daughter joined a community here in London.
What are they? Witches?
There's not a great deal known about them. They protect their privacy. They produce this magazine, which they give away free on the streets.
It's a religious order. Very sectarian.
A combination of Christianity and spiritualism.
Spiritualism.
The community is led by Mrs. Ap Simon.
And again, this is an odd, or I wouldn't say odd, unusual area for an Anderson script to go in terms of a religious order. Obviously, Father Unwin operated out of his church, but the church was a minor aspect of the Secret Service. And I would say maybe to a certain extent spiritualism is at the core of Space 1999, or possibly an odd combination of spiritualism and humanism. So this is a kind of an odd choice for a Protector's... unusual, I made the mistake again. Unusual choice for a Protector's story, but I think this is one of the advantages of, as I think I've said before, having such a loose format as the premise for the series. You really can do anything. And here's Sinead Cusack's father. He's going to go straight to the commune and see if he can see her.
My name's Adam Ferris.
Yes?
My daughter Anne, she's here. Long blonde hair, Canadian.
Sister Anne.
Ah, that Anne, yes.
I have no father on earth. The only father I acknowledge is of and with the spirit.
Then you don't wish to see him?
That's a fairly decent attempt at a Canadian accent there from Sinead Cusack.
Writing to you.
Who I suspect everyone is going to tell me after this, oh, she's actually Canadian, and yes.
This is Sister Anne's other life. We had no wish or right to intrude.
You knew who she was.
To us,
this is
a young girl who needed help.
Mrs. App Simon.
Peace of mind.
Who runs the place.
She was my daughter.
Yes, we did.
And very wealthy.
That did not stop us from inviting her to join our community.
And generally when you see a story like this in a drama show, and I'm thinking only of an example I saw recently, an episode of Fraud Squad from the 1960s, which I thoroughly recommend if you can get hold of it from Network, because it's very good. There's always some kind of, either the whole commune setup is crooked or a key member is crooked. And luckily, in this episode, it is just the latter.
Abundantly clear, Mr. Ferris. Sister Anne does not wish to speak to you.
Because I seem to recall that Mrs. App Simon here is
This is a private house, Mr. Ferris.
Is genuine.
Now we wish you to leave.
I warn you. I'll tear this place apart if I have to.
Oh, me and my brown duffel coat. Oh. But Mark has got some
Please.
backup with him. Because Mrs. App Simon may be a good woman, but she knows when to send the boys in to
Me not to face you.
duff someone up.
It's right that I should tell you.
Tell me what?
I have abandoned my old way of life and all that goes with it.
Including me, your own father?
And my money?
My true father is of the spirit.
But Anne...
I have given my body and my soul to the faith.
You've been brainwashed by these freaks.
I know it's hard for you.
Oh, I suppose another Anderson faith, spiritualism, religious story is The Fire Within, isn't it? I've completely forgotten about that. And that's probably the most overtly religious-themed and based story ever told in the Anderson universe.
We will look after her.
I do look forward to getting to that
We'll
one.
not see you a second time. Goodbye, Mr. Ferris.
Oh, well. That's it. Him and his money, that didn't get him anywhere. So it's time for drinking.
Legally, your daughter is independent.
She can live anywhere she pleases.
I've got to get her away from that house.
Even if she's happy there?
Look.
Especially if she's happy there. I'm businessman McMoneylots, damn it.
Decrees at all private...
And I'll say that my daughter's happiness is the most important thing to me in the world.
Things happen to me.
When I can fit her in. More booze.
I'm only interested in Anne leading a happy, useful, and fulfilled life. She says she's happy, but I know her too well. I don't think she is. Or will be, or can be. You should meet Mrs. App Simon. She's a female Svengali.
Talking of females, where's the Contessa? Is this one of the few episodes that it's Harry and Paul?
Another drink.
Yeah.
I kind of like that we have a Harry and Paul in the Gerry Anderson universe that is it is quite a nice dynamic. I love the three of them together, but I also love when they do pairs within the trio.
I'm sorry.
So, Harry's plan to get some time to talk to Sinead Cusack is...
Are you ill?
No, I'm all right.
...to dress up as a tramp and sit on a park bench near the commune.
When did you eat last?
I can't remember.
And it's an interesting idea, because Paul's watching him from this car as well. But I think... I think they don't take it far enough in terms of making Robert Vaughn up. The costume looks great. I don't know where Harry Rule would have got a tramp outfit from. But I think the fact that it is Robert Vaughn, he is, at this time, very much just... He's got the face of a Hollywood leading man. And you can't hide it at this point.
And
so it is like, his clothes say that he's been living rough. His face, perhaps not.
But we don't know anything about you, who you are, where you come from.
We know he's a drunk.
Does that exclude him from needing to be loved, cared for?
Yeah.
she asked me to come. I didn't. She said that you were Christian folk.
He's just looking for somewhere to stay, an easy time.
Now, how will it work? We're in my own keep. I don't need no chair.
This is not a doss house.
But, Mark, I feel as...
You say you would like to join our community.
Well, not if you don't want me.
Oh, who wouldn't want you?
We will give you a period of probation. You must prove to us all that you are genuine in your desire for spiritual guidance. Since you brought him here, and are so obviously sympathetic, Anne, I'm going to make you responsible for him.
Yay.
That's fair.
And I can stay?
Provided you work hard and obey our rules.
And that means no alcohol.
Ooh. Of course, he's got a bottle in the pocket. Oh, and he's going to hand it over. Big old bottle, too.
We bathe every day. We're up at 6 and in bed by 9. We do not eat flesh and we do not tolerate excuses.
After a week, we will review the situation. Until then, you will confine yourself to your room and wherever Brother Mark instructs you.
Are you enjoying this? Are you enjoying this, by the way? I feel I'm drying up. I'm so sorry. I said going in, I didn't. I struggle to engage with this in a critical way. I can watch it quite happily, but finding things to talk about, and it shouldn't be that difficult, especially in an episode as unusual as this. And I think this is a scene where we're about to come across the first major sort of supernatural element, as they're all having their little meeting in the chapel again. Harry is peeking in through a window.
Someone trying to come through.
As Mrs. Apsimon leads the congregation.
Are you there? My daughter?
My mother.
Aha.
Mark, it's my mother.
Anne?
Oh dear.
Anne?
I'm here, Mother. I'm here.
Anne, my darling.
So, we have apparent supernatural possession in the universe of the Protectors. How do you feel about that?
Come through.
You are...
And again, I'm pretty sure this is presented as a genuine...
have turned away from the skepticism.
Genuine possession of sorts.
Is Adam here?
Father, he is not a believer.
Which you would think this is sort of a trick to keep her on side. But I don't think it is. I think this is for real.
The bird in...
Which I kind of like within this story.
Happy.
I have all these ghost-related shows and things like, Derek Acora and so forth. I don't believe in those as television shows. No, that's not true. I believe they are television shows, but I don't believe in the way they present the world of the paranormal in terms of, what's the American one? Ghost Hunters, where a load of plumbers hunt ghosts on the side, and it's presented as absolutely genuine. And
It was my mother.
You have earned this visit.
Where am I going with this analogy? I'm completely lost. Oh, yes. I am a bit cynical about reality, in inverted commas, ghost-related shows. But I think if this is genuine, as I'm almost sure it is meant to be, I kind of admire the show for not kind of casting any critical comment on it as such. There's no point where anyone says, oh yeah, well, she was having you on there, wasn't she? Within the universe of this show, I kind of like the idea that it's just hinted at here. There's a bit more going on than meets the eye. And now Harry has snuck into the chapel after hours to have a look for sort of hidden doorways and secret passages and hidden switches and such. Even this great big cross, it all seems rather genuine. So, after a very prolonged period of looking round, Harry is jabbed in the face with a torch.
You must have tripped.
What are you doing here?
Yes, tripped and got a massive bruise on your head.
Come down here and find you on the floor with a torch in your hand.
Oh, that's not his torch, though.
More to the point, what are you doing here?
I thought I heard someone.
Oh, thank goodness no one else heard. You know what Mrs. Apsimon said?
Sorry.
You must get to your rooms quickly.
All right.
This is kind of a fun way to take the Harry Rule character. I like the idea of him assuming another persona to carry out this assignment.
Has already donated
Not something he did all that often. It happened occasionally.
And
more often for comedy than anything else.
Need more information than that.
Yeah, well, I'll use every contact we have.
Okay, find the Contessa. She knows people that we've never even heard of.
Yeah, okay.
Oh.
Hey, by the way.
Is Nairi Dawn Porter going to show up?
I like it.
What does that line even mean? She knows people that we've never even heard of. She knows Mr. Stuart Hambledown of 19 St. George's Road, Putney. What?
Oh,
that line probably made more sense if I hadn't waffled over the beginning, but...
I took a woo.
So the Contessa is apparently playing some role in this episode. I still doubt we'll see her, considering it's now the second half of the episode. But stranger things have happened. I think Harry Rule did one episode show up just for the second half. Anyway, Mrs. Absimon is a bit suspicious. As well she might be, because Harry Rule is now going through her desk drawers. Trying to. Yes, he's got it open. What are we looking at here? I don't know, because the picture quality is too low def for me to make out what it said on the front of the folder. But here's a letter. What does that say? I still can't make it out. This is the last will of Anne Thingy. Oh, an interesting development.
About you.
And there he is.
I can explain that.
Our obvious villain.
Don't waste your time.
With a gun. Who would have thought that Sanderson, of all people, would turn out to be a bad un?
Must be given away. But getting a 19-year-old girl to sign her will seems to me to be a little unusual.
And I do like, actually, the switch there of Harry from his drunk homeless guy to normal, professional, slick, cool self.
Who sent you to me?
And what's interesting with the ending of this is that you would think, okay, Mark is in it just for the con, but there is an element of something more there. He's not in it for the money entirely.
It's urgent.
There is a bit of him sort of seeing himself as a chosen one almost.
Well, it's your friend.
In much the same way that Sanderson did in Space 1999, it is a very close character.
Promised me.
Well, we could try and get him to his room, but
We'll have to hurry.
And I wonder if it's this role that got him Sanderson several years later.
What have you done to him?
It's probably just a coincidence, but it's a fairly major one.
No one ever comes down here.
Ooh. He's locked them in.
Louis.
Tied Harry to the wall.
Wait to see.
Now he's going to tie Sinead Cusack to the wall. Oh, no? No.
Mark, have you seen Sister Anne?
Well, he went off somewhere with her and a rope, so...
Why?
She's disappeared. Nobody knows where she is. Her bed hasn't been slept in.
Oh, that's funny.
Why?
That new man, the probationary, always hanging around her. He's gone too.
But it's not me. It's not my fault. I'm sweet, innocent Mark.
Touching her, eyes on her. She's very attractive.
All I want is a habitable planet. Mrs. Absimon accepts that explanation. We close in on a close-up of dear old Ken Hutchison pulling a very slimy, shifty expression.
Hello, yes? It's for you.
Ah, her dad's still around the place.
Yes, this is Adam Ferris. Mrs. Absimon. When? Last night. No, I haven't seen her at all.
And I'm not giving you much time to say a full sentence.
What did she want?
I love that in shows where it's, yes, hello, at the hospital? Oh, right, yes.
Searching everywhere.
And there's no time for the person on the other end of the line to say anything. Okay, so he did tie her up.
In a few days.
Put her in a different room.
All worked out so perfectly.
Ah, now he's brought her back in.
Last week, I witnessed it. She left everything to the community.
Oh.
I warned them about you. You're a drunk.
So it's not so much that the community is taking advantage of her, it's that Mark found out about the will that Sinead Cusack made, leaving everything to the community, and now he wants that money, I guess?
And when she wouldn't lay still, he killed her. He didn't mean to. He was drunk. Crazed with whiskey. Then, unable to face what he did, he committed suicide.
Oh, no.
You together.
With a knife. Oh, but he can't stab her. And it's not for lack of trying. Some kind of force appeared to intercede. He couldn't bring the knife down. Very spooky. And Harry just looks back at Sinead Cusack as if to say, what the hell was that?
The man you know as a stuttering drunk, is working for me.
And I've got a lot of money.
Investigator.
And if he did leave here...
I'm money bags rich dad. Oh, somehow... Oh, okay, yes. Because Mark dropped the knife, Harry and Sinead Cusack are able to use it to free themselves from their bonds.
He was going to kill us. Something stopped him.
Gotta find that madman.
What sort of something, though?
It's different.
Yeah.
And we're coming up on an unusual ending to the episode.
Mrs. Simon.
And thank heaven.
Where's Harry?
Mark. He tried to kill us. Mark. Harry's...
Oh, no, not trustworthy Mark. Yes, and it's an ending that I kind of find the idea of it sits a bit oddly within not only the Protectors, but kind of the general ITC universe. When you have a series that's so grounded in reality as the Protectors mostly is.
What's a life?
The idea of spiritual...
Many minds.
Divine intervention almost being used to resolve a story. Kind of... I don't know. I'm never sure how I feel about it. There's an episode of an ITC series called Strange Report. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Which is very much grounded in reality, and the main characters are forensic investigators, so they go into everything in great detail. And there's one episode that ends with the spirit of a dead witch kind of intervening. Very similar as Mark is experiencing here, to save the day. But a great wind just rushed into the room there, caused Mark to fall on his gun and fire it into his stomach. And that's it. That's the resolution to this story. And as I said, Strange Report does a similar thing where at the very end of the episode, they're having a birthday cake and the spirit of a witch wafts into the room and blows out the candles. And it's like, this is such a reality-grounded show. And now we're being asked to accept this divine wind.
Sometimes it is better not to question.
And that line kind of, okay, it's supposed to make you think, no, just leave it. As a one-off, we can accept this. But I've got to say, it's always been very difficult for me to accept this as an ending. So, yeah, I would be interested to hear other people's thoughts on the Protectors episode, Burning Bush. I have to say, as I feel I so often say with the Protectors, and I don't want to say it because I love this show, this is not a favourite of mine. I think it is perhaps just a bit too different to work within the format. I admire them for trying, but I think the angle of genuine spiritual divine intervention is a bit much to swallow within the Protectors universe. But do let me know what you think.
Right, yes.
Well,
back into the avenues and alleyways with you, Protectors.
Yes.
We don't need any more of that, as much as Chris maybe partly enjoyed some of it. He'll be back next week with another randomly chosen episode from a random Gerry Anderson series, because
what will it be, I wonder?
Well, it'll be random, because that's how it works.
Well, that's what I said. Yeah, I wonder what it'll be. I didn't say what will it be and then expect a response.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Rhetorical.
Sorry, I didn't detect
It's random. It's all random. It is.
The whole podcast is, really.
Well, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, there is a script, but not that you...
Oh, do you know, should I tell you something now?
Yeah.
Well, the minute that we start recording these podcasts, I close my script.
Do you?
Yeah. Well, I don't need to know, do I?
Not really, I suppose.
just follow your lead.
I read the news and a few other bits and pieces, so it all makes sense.
That's right. Yeah.
Good.
There.
Well, yes,
Don't
fine.
tell Ben that, though, will you?
No. Yeah, thankfully, I don't think he'll be listening. No. Right, anyway, look, that is it. Please do drop us a note, podcast@gerryanderson.com, with any thoughts, ideas, questions, queries, feed. Yes, a note. What's wrong with that?
Note. A missive. An epistle.
All right. If you turned into Mark Heap then for a moment, that was very strange. Start asking me where Wilson is in a moment. Anyway, this is getting into a niche thing, especially for our non-UK listeners. Sorry, Podsterons.
Yes, sorry.
Oh dear. Just leave us a review or something or other, rating.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
that'd be
Rating. We're always very grateful when we see those. If you haven't done one yet, then not shame on you, but also a bit shame on you. So you better fix that sharpish. Right, we'll be back with Pod 221 next week. I know.
I suppose it will be,
The numbers keep going up.
Yeah, don't they?
And that's it.
All right then. Okay.
So I hope we didn't make your ears too clammy and stuff.
Mine are certainly clammy.
Mine too. We'll see you next week, Podsterons. Bye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Right. I know we talked about breakfast last week.
Oh, yeah, we did, didn't we?
I had an extremely disappointing takeaway.
Oh, did you?
Oh.
Is there such a thing?
Well, I didn't think so, but yeah. I know this is a huge first world problem. I completely acknowledge that. But sure. I had a really long day. I had nothing in the fridge. There was just no food in the house. And I knew I was going to be working until 9:30 or something like that. So I thought, well, I can eat on the job, so to speak. So I put an order in 7:00.
Yeah.
Nothing arrived. I finished the work I was going to do while thinking I could eat during it. And then it arrived.
Right.
And everything was a bit insipid and wilted brownish salad leaves in with stuff.
Right.
A burger swimming in liquid cheese sauce, but not in a good way. Oh, it was heartbreaking, Dickie. It was heartbreaking.
Right. Name and shame.
No, I'm not doing that. That's not fair. Let's
get
fair.
our followers onto them. Let's raise the mob and go after them with pitchforks.
No, I don't agree with that strategy, but I won't be doing that. But no, I was just sad. So what I really need to do to fix that is to have a lovely curry somewhere.
Oh,
hint,
I love
hint,
a curry.
wink,
as you
wink,
know.
hint, hint.
Oh,
nudge, nudge.
Oh, somewhere. Okay.
No.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. What?
Okay,
what are you looking at me for? I'm not taking you out for a curry.
Well, what? Come
I thought you were inviting me out. No, why should I? What? Just a minute.
Okay.
I do a podcast every week. What more do you want from me? Blood?
30th of September feels like a good day for a curry, doesn't it?
Ah,
Yeah?
right.
Let's
you.
discuss this more offline.
All right. Let's do that.
Onion barges.
Naan. Yeah, that was lovely, wasn't it? Yeah, lamb rogan Josh. Yeah, prawn Danzak.
And a mango lassie to finish.
Weird.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.